Hello, welcome back to From Soft Serve, where we are once again in the Hunter's Dream in Bloodborne, specifically in my PC Remaster mod, which does still exist for now, as you may have seen from the title. If you're not aware, recently Sony did a DMCA against Lance McDonald's 60 FPS patch, although they didn't actually DMCA the patch itself, as that's just code and it actually doesn't even say what game it's for, so they couldn't DMCA that. But they DMCA the page itself because it mentions Bloodborne and that is their trademark. And then there was another DMCA over an old Bloodborne cart video apparently, but that might be by somebody else. But anyway, there's happenings. I have not received a request for my Bloodborne PC Remaster mod yet. We will see if I ever do. We do have the 10th anniversary of Bloodborne coming up, so presumably there might be a state of play later this month. That seems to be the current rumors, and it could line up with an announcement. Like if you're going to release something new, you announce it for a month later, and then you have time to market it. And could they want to remove a lot of the search results for 60 FPS Bloodborne or Remaster to make room for their remaster? That is entirely possible. But this video is kind of just I'm still working on it. I will be putting out a new update because I've been taking the things I've been learning from Dark Souls 3 modding, if you've been seeing those videos, which is basically taking SSAO from Elden Ring, actually, so the screen space ambient occlusion settings from Elden Ring and applying them, essentially backporting them really easily. You just literally copy and paste. And so it can use the SSAO from that, which has less ghosting and is a little bit more subtle, but still provides good coverage. It includes altering the direct lighting and the indirect lighting, exposure changes, filmic contrast, color scale, basically so many things I've been learning from Dark Souls 3 modding, and it's thankfully applicable to Bloodborne. And then special shout out to Trivia, who of course is one of the main sort of brains behind my Dark Souls 3 Bloodborne modding, just my modding in general. She's been so helpful with tips and tricks and GParam editing and how things function and light mapping and textures. And so she DM'd me. She's been messing around with the debug mode, and she's been figuring out the light angles for the actual maps. Their light angle is a little bit off in some maps that don't match up with where the baked lighting was actually done. And so you'll have a mismatch between the dynamic shadows slightly and the baked lighting shadows, because you want those, of course, to line up, right? So she's been playing around with that. And so here you'll notice the lighting. Without a side-by-side, it's a little bit hard to tell, but I think the overall quality of the rendering here, I think, looks insane, frankly. This is at 1080p. I still get crashes at 1440p, unfortunately, so I'm still running this at 1080p. Let's go to Central Yharnam. I've been kind of going through each area and applying the SSAO updates, the direct lighting, indirect lighting changes, and essentially essentially my goal has been to remove the hero lighting that I don't particularly love. I totally understand why FromSoft and a lot of game developers do hero lighting for the player, so you stand out. I tend to like the character to exist in the environment like one-to-one. So you'll notice in this version of Central Yharnam, I have tweaked, because there's 4 different versions, but this is the late version with the, obviously, after you defeat Rom, right? And you'll notice how the character here blends into the environment, I'd say pretty perfectly at this point. You don't have any random blue light coming from a different direction anymore. I found out how to remove that. And then There was actually like local lights that were also being applied. There was a light mask that was being applied. So a lot of my changes are to just make the player perfectly blend into the environment so that when it gets shadowed, the player now perfectly matches the darkness of the area. Now you'll see the flickering in the distance. That seems to still be a emulator problem. That's like one of the lingering bugs. Dude, that guy always scares me. Okay, good, it didn't crash. I was like, oh god, please don't crash. But yeah, so let's go down here. Yeah, I think this just looks fantastic. I'm so happy with the added point lights and all of the changes I've made to these areas. I think it really pops. Okay, so we're just gonna walk past. This is my invincible character. I'm still not running it at 60 FPS either, as I have still not had that be stable. But just notice how the player blends into the environment pretty perfectly at this point and gets shadowed and then hits the light. And then my reflectance map changes, upscaled textures, added dynamic shadows, parallax occlusion mapping added on many surfaces. So the PC remaster work continues. I also found out from Dark Souls 3 how to not have the grass be very dark. That's been an issue in my mod for quite a while. And that was due to how the grass handles local lights. There actually needs to be local lights applied to it at all times, like map wide. And that's done in the GParam. So I found out that you actually need to apply that light, otherwise they're not going to look normal, despite changing it to the right lighting ID, the same as the environment. And it just doesn't work. So I found out how to make that look more natural. I can change the RGB values on the light that's being applied to the grass, and I can align it to the general direct lighting that you're getting from the sun. So I've been doing that through each area, and yeah, let's just make a nice slow walk. Of course, we still have shadows being cast from this. You'll notice the shadows are low quality. I still have not figured out how to make the shadows higher quality and not look like... It looks like my character's incredibly thin. But Bloodborne has like shadow quality problems, where Dark Souls 3 really doesn't. I can't tell if they're doing like a shadow coal flip to like change the coaling on it. Oh yeah, this still happens. Where you have to quit out to reload some of the map pieces, which is annoying. Yeah, so still working on that. I believe I've done the nighttime old Yharnam. I've done a lot of the areas. I need to do an update to this mod within the next couple days, I think is my goal. So probably version 0.85. Yeah, this has been happening too. I'm not sure what that is. I also fixed Cainhurst in my mod recently. Shout out to Trivia for also helping me fix that. I honestly thought Cainhurst didn't have snow because of like an emulator problem, but no, it turns out it was my fault. Apparently I had done something to the GParams, the graphical config file for that area, and the snow masking just was not working. And I was like, oh shit, okay. So in my next version of my mod, Cainhurst will have snow again. And we should actually go there. Let's go run up there. Okay, you play Grid and Rat. That's rude. I think we all agree that that's incredibly rude to say to someone. So let's hit that. Let's go to Cainhurst, because I've also took the light direction changes from Trivia and the exposure changes that I learned from Dark Souls 3. Let's see, is it this one? Nope, it's not that one. And this one. Fingers crossed. I'm still getting crashes upon hitting some enemies on some characters. I don't know why that is, so I load into a different character, and then I'm able to go to that area. Not sure if that's an emulator thing. I know my mod certainly does not help stability. Yeah, so Cainhurst does have snow again, which is very nice. I figured out how that works. I was like, oh, okay, so it's just in the GParam, there's snow, but I don't remember ever changing the snow settings. So I did something to it. Not really entirely sure what, but I think Cainhurst still looks pretty sick. I think I was removing the snow. There's a specific material setting that gets applied to these map pieces that is snow specific. It's actually like MARSN underscore snow. And at first I thought I had just messed with that. I had not. I had just goofed something up in the graphical config files. I was like, oh, shit. Yeah, you'll see some parallax occlusion mapping on this wall, which I have shown in prior videos. Just don't look down here. That's the added depth. That's, well, actually, I think there's the way that they configured this room. This surface, there's a little bit of a gap here. So I might put like a pot there or something. Because you can actually change the depth on the parallax. And I already have, but it will sometimes make these bigger. It could be a reason why FromSoft didn't use parallax occlusion mapping that often in the actual like unmodded game, because you will run into issues of like if you turn on parallax for this floor, which I have, you'll actually see these stairs. There's a gap between the bottom of the stairs here and the parallax because it's actually creating an offset because of the depth, and so I kind of have to work with within those constraints. Yeah, I'm looking at a lot of the little tiny changes that I can make. I thought I turned on shadow casting for this blue light, which I added a spotlight here, but apparently I did not. I think it's because the shadow was like really low quality. But there is a shadow from this light that I added, which matches up with the baked shadows on these like little banisters, which I think actually looks pretty sick. I added a bunch of like very generic fill lights in here. And then I added point lights to each one of these candles, because before they didn't have any illumination from them. They were just the flame, but it was in darkness, which looked really weird. Now I'm just jump-starting my brain as to the changes I've made. But yeah, we do have the particles for the snow and like the wind coming off these stairs. And that was in like, I think a couple weeks ago. Dude, these guys always get me. They blend in so goddamn well. It's crazy how often they get me. But yeah, you'll see the pretty awesome depth of field effect. Okay, so there's this jabroni. And you can see how the character blends into the environment. It does not have abnormal hero lighting. You actually just look like you're in the environment. Which, of course, when you go into a dark room, dude, this guy always gets me. Oh, I forgot there's the guy behind me, too. These jabronis. Okay, don't do your little screaming. Don't be a screamer. And then I've always loved this surface. I love this little stone texture. Because this texture did not move forward to Dark Souls 3, at least from what I've seen, but it always has like a really cool look to it. And it has a nice like specular effect. A lot of these textures I would love to do parallax occlusion mapping, but it just sadly does not work because they're already using like snow masking, and that would require like figuring out, I guess with, I was going to say Dark Souls 3 lighting engine, but I'm like, no, I'm talking about Bloodborne. We do not have a lighting engine mod coming for Bloodborne because obviously it's being emulated, so that's just not a thing. I did add point lights to like every one of these windows to give you a little bit of illumination from the light coming in. I do remember that. Now I'm just rambling. I've gone over 10 minutes now. Basically, my remaster mod is still here for now, and you'll know when it disappears because I'll tell you that it's disappeared. I'm assuming I'll just get a notice from Nexus Mods one day saying, hey, by the way, Sony told us that we need to take it down. And I'll be like, yeah, all right, fire. I'll just play it for myself, I guess. I wonder if I could still be on Patreon. They may still not like that. I don't know. I'll have to cross that bridge once I get to it. We will see. I wonder if there's one other area we can go to. I think Old Yharnam. I think I just recently tweaked the dark Old Yharnam because that also had the lighting direction change that Trivia helped me with. Let's go to Old Yharnam. I'm also testing out new mic settings without using NVIDIA's broadcast software, which does noise reduction, which I've been using, you know, for the whole length of the channel. Unfortunately, I found out it has like 30% GPU utilization just idling to do the NVIDIA broadcast. So now I've turned that off and I'm just using like a noise gate. But I suck at audio, so I'm hoping it sounds okay. But yeah, let's go into old Yharnam for a second. Yeah, it looks pretty sick. Pretty sick, chat. Except that in old Yharnam, there still is this visual bug of like something happening to these statues with the textures. I've not figured that out. That seems to be an emulator thing. And I can't tell if it's like trying to alternate between like the LOD model or what, really. Oh, okay, so we got that guy. It is crazy to think of like how far we've come. I remember being in old Yharnam at like the beginning of Bloodborne being playable on this emulator, and you just had no normal maps, no lighting. The G params were not functioning. You didn't have shadows. You didn't have the torch. You didn't have anything, and it ran like hot dog shit. Yeah, I always love looking at this brick wall because I added parallax occlusion mapping to it, which is that's probably my favorite thing to say is adding parallax occlusion mapping to something. I've said that on this channel so fucking often. But Old Yharnam is one of my favorite looking visual areas. Oh wait, so night. It's like wait, does nighttime old? Oh no, there's the old statue. Okay, I was hoping the floating statue was still there. I was like, what the fuck? Okay, yeah. So we still have the floating statue, which by the way, I don't think I had said this on the channel, but I actually looked into that statue. I looked into it with DS Map Studio or Smithbox, and there was actually like a bullet param attached to it, and there was like an event attached to it. So it's seemingly more complex than they just left a statue up there because, well, it doesn't really make sense why they would leave a statue up there, right? Because why would there be a statue floating? They've obviously had other things that have been either floating or not touching the ground, but that one always has stood out to me as peculiar, right? And yeah, it turns out there was some different params attached to it and like an event. So I don't know what exactly that would entail. Let's quit out again, as it has stopped loading some of the distant map pieces. This has been an issue for Old Yharnam for months, frankly, where it just stops loading something in the distance. But yeah, you know, one thing I do miss in Bloodborne is in Dark Souls 3, when you have the torch out, you can hit like the left bumper and you'll actually hold up the torch higher. And obviously in Bloodborne, you end up switching your weapon. Man, I do miss actually being able to lift the torch and get better illumination off of it and fill the environment. That I actually do miss when I go back to Bloodborne. But Bloodborne has the lantern or the lamp you can put on your hip. And annoyingly, Dark Souls 3 does not have that, which I still think is really weird because it came back in Elden Ring. That was it. Oh yeah, parallax occlusion mapping on this floor right here. Oh shit, okay. Okay, chill out guys, chill out. And over here as well. And then my favorite parallax occlusion mapping I added is over here. Let's see. Yeah, I love these rocks. Okay, well, I'm invincible, guys, so you can't actually kill me. I have maximum health. So give me my blood vials. Oh, bloodstone shard. Bloodstone. But yeah, you can actually see on these rocks here. Parallax occlusion mapping. Oh my god, it looks so good. Like, so that's an actual flat surface. But with parallax occlusion mapping, it's showing awesome, awesome depth. Really happy with that one. I think that's one of the better upgrades that I've put in this game. Oop, wrong way. Oh, turned on parallax for that surface. Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun just going through and adding parallax, but right now I'm going through each of the G params for each area and then basically applying all of the learnings. The learnings, is that a word? Is that a thing? Do we say that? That I've learned, acquired from Dark Souls 3. Basically, it's cross-pollinating between my Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3 mods because they share like 98% of their rendering setup, and so you can just get some really cool uh, upgrades. Here I added a point light to each one of these like burning pyres, so you get this really nice like natural illumination off these as you're heading to the blood starved. I know it's BSB. Is it blood starved beast? Do we know that? Are we sure about that? Is there another one in the chalice dungeons that are it's something else? Blood something. Now you'll notice the shadow from this light is really low quality. Although we are getting a dynamic shadow from the cloth that's actually moving up there. I think that's with the new light direction. We're actually getting this really cool dynamic shadow that moves. But you'll notice my shadow is barely recognizable. It actually looks terrible. So I need to figure out the shadow like coal flipping or something. I can't quite figure it out in Bloodborne. Dark Souls 3 has a much easier time of displaying these shadows, but for Bloodborne, there's some setting that is just demolishing the distant shadows from spotlights like this. And I'd love to fix that because it just looks like dog shit. I'd actually really like obviously from a distance, there should be like shadows being less clear or defined at a distance, but it's a little bit severe. And I'd love there to be a shadow on the actual lamp itself. Obviously, other things that on a wish list is if we could modify the particle effect that is in a lot of the lights, like these lamps or like little candles. And if we could modify those particle effects, we could add shadow casting and we could do a lot of really cool things. But unfortunately, that is kind of not possible at the moment. I also need to look at these floor surfaces to see if I can enable parallax occlusion mapping on them because there are some like divots and cracks that I think actually could look really good. But it should be a blend surface, so we'll see if that's doable. But anyway, I've yammered on long enough. Basically, this video is saying, yes, my remaster mod is still being worked on, and I should have an update for it soon. I'm hoping within a couple days that I can sort of get through the areas and do my exposure tweaks and whatnot, and then yeah, put it out on Nexus Mods on my Patreon, and yeah. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video, which will probably be Dark Souls 3, as I did a version 0.6 update for my new visual overhaul mod, and it got even better looking, I think. So I do need to do a video on that. So fellow Hunters, I'll see you next time.